Just saying.
There's still like houses different.
Okay, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started. So please help yourself to a seat, either at a table or along the edge of the room here.
That's where. Ooh. I like group communications class. Pretty good. That's pretty good.
If you sit at this table, you will get bit. Looks like everybody stay away from it.
Yeah.
Oh, we got the one. Always one.
But he's nice and like he's in the corner though.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. It's great to see all of you here. And we'd like to extend a special welcome to our participants that are outside of the Juneau area. This event is live streamed via the YouTube channel. So we supplied some links for that via email. So we're happy that you're also participating with us in this very special day. My name is Deborah Reitman, and I am the VA School Certifying Official here at UAS. And it is my pleasure and my honor to work with our student veterans who have served our country and are now pursuing their educational goals. And so they served us. It's our turn to serve them. And we are thrilled that they chose UAS as a place to do that. And so we have a chance to listen from our panel of student veterans here in a little bit. But I'd like to introduce Chancellor Caulfield, who is going to open us up with a few words. Chancellor Caulfield.
Thank you, Deb. And thanks to all of you who are veterans who are here with us today and also active duty. We're very grateful for your service and the sacrifice that veterans in our country have made over the years. And especially to those who are on streaming online too, thank you for joining us. This is a really momentous day for all of America to be reminded of the sacrifice that our service personnel have provided over all the years. And I'm really pleased that we're going to hear from some of the students who have also served in the past. The sacrifice and the risk that people put themselves into I was reminded of this. I was saying to Commander Hayes here a few minutes ago, just on Saturday, as the wind was blowing about 40 or 50, our house looks out onto the water and seeing the spindrift blowing off at the top of these huge waves rolling through. And I saw a Coast Guard helicopter flying back towards the airport. And I was reminded of situations that I've been where I've seen them and I've been concerned about their mission. And sure enough, to read about it a short while later about someone who was rescued off the beach out there in those huge seas made me wonder why someone would dare to go out in those kinds of conditions. But nevertheless, there was the Coast Guard protecting us. And as a mariner myself, I'm very grateful for that protection and the voice on the radio saying, are you in need of assistance? And this gentleman clearly was in need of assistance. So we're very grateful for the Coast Guard, especially here in Southeast Alaska. And I want to say a word of thanks to Deb, because Deb does serve as a very important part of our support team for veterans on our campus here. And so thank you, Deb, for putting this event together. And again, we're here to serve you because you've served all of us as Americans. So thank you very much.
Forgot to advance that. So this part of our program gives us a chance to introduce those who have served or are veterans, as well as active duty military personnel. So we're going to start with our student veterans. So we've got some questions up here on the screen. So if you could just state your name, degree program or degree earned, military branch, and military occupation and rank. So we're going to start with David. And if you could stand up and just say those things.
Maybe.
If you can.
Yes, David Carroll, my degree program, I'm doing two, the Associates for Fisheries Technology and the Bachelor's of Science in Fisheries and Ocean Science here. I was United States Marine Corps, and my MOS was a 6174, which was a UH-1 November crew chief. So I got to do maintenance and ride around in helicopters. Fun.
Thanks.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tori Best. I'm here at UAS for the elementary education program. So I was in the United States Marine Corps. I had 2 MOSs as a 1371 combat engineer with a secondary MOS of 0311 basic infantryman. And I got out as a sergeant, so that's my story.
My name's Donald Jackson. This is Max. I was in the Army. I got out as an E4. My MOS was 19 kilo or tanker. And my degree here is heavy duty diesel technology and another one in mining technology.
Okay, great. Thanks, Myron. Okay. Jeffrey.
Jeffrey Loftus. I work with the School of Ed. I'm not in a degree program at the moment. You never know. I work predominantly, I'm in the school, the college, I should say, and work among others with fine students like Tori. She's going to plan to be an elementary teacher. Great. And let's see, I had a number of different MOSs, and you said combat engineer, and the one mine was 12 Bravo.
Oh,
Maybe that's the old, what they used to call it for when I was a combat engineer. I was also 51 November, which is water purification. And then last few years, one of my backgrounds was a guidance counselor. And so I was a retention counselor for my National Guard unit for quite a few years. When I go up there, I'll tell a little bit more. That's about it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else around the corner here can see?
I'm
All right.
Byron Hayes, I'm the response chief here, so search and rescue operations, law enforcement, pollution response for Southeast Alaska from Yakutat down to Dixon entrance. So thank you all for inviting.
Thanks for coming. Okay, Daniel, we'll start at your table.
Daniel Piscoya. I graduated UAS with a degree in English, and all the other officer trainees and I are newly, I suppose in Caulfield's case, not newly, but we're part of the Coast Guard, and our occupation currently is officer trainee. So we are currently in training to either go straight to OCS, which is Officer Candidate School, which we will graduate hopefully as an ensign, an O1, or complete our degree program prior to.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Logan Holt. I've got UAS for about 10 years, I guess. I started when I was in high school. I have an associate's degree as a mining mechanic, and I'm currently pursuing a bachelor's degree for business administration. I'm in the Coast Guard and also part of the C-SPY program here, and can kind of explain what that is.
Thank you.
Matt Moorfield. I just transferred here actually from Florida Atlantic University. I'm in the C-SPY program with these 2 gentlemen here, and I'm in the BBA program for Management Information Systems.
Okay, thank you. Mike.
I'm Mike Pittman. I retired from the Coast Guard as a Master Chief Gunner's Mate, and I'm here for Bachelor's in Business Administration with emphasis in accounting.
Great, thank you. Beth.
Beth Talby, I graduated from the Air Force in '90 as a captain. I was a personnel programs officer, and I just have gotten a master's of education here at UAS. I'm a teacher, and I'm an administrative assistant with the School of Arts and Sciences.
Okay, thank you. Gloria.
Gloria Mary with IT Media Services, and I had a brief stint in the Army as a medic.
Okay, fantastic. And anybody else that we might have missed? Okay, fantastic. Is there anybody who is joining us remotely that would like to introduce themselves via the chat feature on the YouTube channel? So feel free to type in your name and any of this information, and we would love to at least acknowledge you as well. Okay, well, thank you for all of you who have served and are currently serving. And again, it is our pleasure that you are here at UAS, or if you pursued your education here at UAS. And we're just really honored to have you here. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Professor Jeffrey Loftus, and he is going to moderate our student panel part of the session. This is like the highlight of our event, is hearing from our students.
No doubt, no doubt. Thanks for having me, Deb. Appreciate it. Glad to help out. I did mention that I was end of my career in National Guard. I was a retention counselor, which meant I did a lot of things in our large unit. It happened to be in Minot, North Dakota at the time. Only the best come north, we called it. I was actually the Air Force, but the same difference. The other thing is I thought it would be appropriate. I had an opportunity to wear this uniform today. It was my dad's dress uniform, and he was in WW2. And he just passed a couple of years ago, but he had the opportunity in some 6-7 years ago to go to Washington, D.C. with a lot of other WW2 vets for what they call the honor flight. And they flew a lot of the folks there and met various Congress folks and whatnot. And I had the opportunity one summer when I was back in North Dakota visiting him when he at his senior center where he went every day for lunch. He went there and they presented a program for veterans, and he got to speak and tell his stories of being in the service. And they weren't war stories, but they were being in the service. And I learned a lot, as is often the case in families. I learned a lot more there than we ever did just as a family talking about it. And that's kind of a personal thing. But at any rate, today we're here to honor all veterans and folks who have served as well. And I think I have some questions, which I think you've seen in advance. So you've got all your answers well prepared, right? All right. So I'm going to pose some questions, and we have no order, so anyone can jump in, and you don't have to answer each one, but that'd be probably the best thing. Let's see how that works. And we have about another 25-30 minutes before we're going to break for lunch and or dessert. So kind of keep that in mind. So think about when you were leaving the military and transitioning to civilian or student life. What's maybe the best thing about that process that you've experienced?
Well, I think for when you're first transitioning out of the military into civilian life, it was an open road. Like there's so many possibilities open to you, and it was exciting. So it felt like a reset button got pushed.
Yeah. For myself, getting out meant I could grow a beard and do the lack of grooming standards that you still kept, but and I always thought it was that kind of freedom. Yeah,
You could keep your cover on indoors,
yeah.
opposed to prior when you couldn't, right?
Yeah.
Cover.
That was actually harder for me to get out of the habit of. I actually bought a hat when I got out just so I could wear it indoors, and I'd take it off. I'd wear it when I went outside, and I'd have to take it off when I came inside.
As soon as you enter the awning or in a building, you remove your cover, which is your hat.
But I did immediately start growing my beard out.
There you go. There you go.
That's my favorite part.
I started growing out my mustache.
Whether you like it or not, right? Hear you. Anyone else? We're good? Okay. So how about what might have been the biggest challenge in this transition to civies, if you will?
For me, I was stationed in Germany, and so I had to come back here. And since I didn't have anyone any way to find a house or a job waiting for me when I was transitioning out, I had to move back in with my mom when I got out, and that was not fun. So
It wasn't the ideal, but
it wasn't the idea of,
it worked for you as a transition. Excellent.
no choice.
Cool. Thank you. Anyone else?
I had the same thing. Kind of the best part was like this newfound freedom. And that also happened to be like the worst part. You're so excited about all these endless possibilities, and you get out and you kind of realize that you have to get back to life right away. And so I was supposed to buy my mother's house. So I moved in with my mom, with my partner at the time. And it seemed like life was just so set up and everything was going to work out. And then just, you go through your transitions and life isn't a straight road. So realizing that it wasn't going to be the way I wanted it to was a hard transition for me. So.
Ooh, my transition is a little different. And I say, because everybody's transition is different, going into the military straight out of high school. Like literally you graduate and then a month later you're belong to somebody else. And so that was a culture shock, but they do have a cookie cutter for that. It's whenever you get out that they don't have a cookie cutter to get back into. So you had to find your own deal and where you wanted to be. Even though you knew what you wanted to do, it was like, wait, there's other people that aren't as like-minded as you. And that was a culture shock for me, was realizing you've been with the same mindset of people or similar, and then you go into where they're either all the way or nothing at all. It was a reverse culture shock, I'd say.
So part of that mindset, if you will, I remember being drilled into us about our military bearing. What is the military bearing?
Yes. It's about, you know, being respectful towards everyone, and also like you don't show emotion as much, and you get really used to that. I know, especially in our branch, you're kind of always constantly with your face just professional. And when I came out going to school, I went to school got out December 16th, and I went right back into school. And I didn't think I'd be bothered by it, but like those small differences, if I saw someone fall asleep in the class, it actually kind of bothered me, you know, and the way that people like treated each other wasn't the exact same. And I left from Alaska, and then, you know, I was in California and whatnot, and I came back to Alaska, and I thought that I'd fall right back into my old friends, and they're, you know, and everything would work out. But I didn't really connect with them the same way that I thought I would. And I connected more with their parents or older students and the older generation. And I felt like I lost a lot of my friends, and not because of them, but because of my own transition. So
When you see somebody fall asleep in class, you're looking for somebody to start yelling, drop and give me 50, something like that.
a little nudge.
A little bit, yeah. So and you've covered some of this, but I'm going to ask the question anyway to see if something else comes out. But what did you learn about yourself after leaving the military? And again, you've covered some of that, but is there anything more you want to add?
For me personally, the biggest shock for me was how strong my will was. I mean, you all get stronger when you're in the military, but you don't notice because you're, you know, physically and mentally, because everyone around you has also been through the same training. So everyone's basically the same tier, just gone up a little bit. But when you get out, I realized how much stronger I was as a person now. My will was stronger. Just like I'd been boiled down to the core, and then that's what what was left was just stronger.
You learned discipline, self-discipline, or learned it?
Self-discipline, push yourself beyond my limits from what I want when I want to quit, to like physical endurance, to quitting when you physically can't do it anymore, you know, that kind of stuff. You kind of learn how to apply that to your normal life. So you do it, even if you don't want to do it, you just keep going, and, you know.
I will say that the best shape I've ever been in my life was when I left boot camp. Say that for sure. All right. Anyone else on that?
Cool.
Learning about yourself. Go ahead.
I learned that I need to let people help. That was a big deal, because you're the big tough guy. You're the guy. You're the person that was always there to help other people. And when you get out, a lot of that goes away from the people that you're not around anymore. And you realize, hey, I might need, for whatever X, Y, and Z, you're going to need some type of assistance from another person. And hey, you need it. So accepting it and learning how to accept that you need some help.
Camaraderie.
Yeah, that's one thing I learned too about, you know, you learn how to be strong when you're in, but when I got out, I'm still like within my 2-year period. And the first year I thought I could just do it by myself. Like everything would be okay. And, you know, like flawless transition. And this last couple of months, I just moved to Juneau, and it kind of clicked within myself that it's okay to like question your decisions, and it's okay to go to other people and ask for assistance. Like we don't have to like carry the burden of our transitions by ourselves. Like, you know, we can meet other veterans and talk about it and be open. So that was something I learned by getting out, is that we need to like be more open with what we're going through.
It took me a lot longer to learn that than it apparently took you.
Again, this question probably covers, or some of you have covered some of this, but let's just see if it teases out anything else. How did going from the military to civilian or student life affect your identity? And again, you've touched on that a bit, but anything more to add?
So UAS is not my first university that I went to. I had gotten out in August 3rd and August 8th. I had started at a place called McNeese State University. And it's a little bit bigger than this, like facility wise and student population. And that was a little different for me there than coming to this school, because you were a number again, a different kind of number. You were you're a student veteran, and I didn't want to get labeled that way, even though there was a lot of my friends who were getting out at the same time, going to the same school. I found that I wanted to be David. I didn't want to be Corporal Carroll or veteran, or I just wanted to be me. And university let me do that. I could put all that stuff away and come to school. And here I think it's even better here, because my mindset went from I didn't want anything to do with that to wait, there's other people that maybe you can be VFW David or veteran David, whatever, and you could help out someone else. I went from a mindset of being me, and it was kind of selfish, but whatever. I thought I deserved it. And here I get to find out other people that might have been in my situation and help them.
So you found that you didn't have to force yourself.
Exactly.
Did you embrace it?
You can still utilize it. You don't have to throw it out there. That makes sense.
What advice might you give to another veteran?
A lot.
Yeah, that's a large question.
I touch back on that it's okay to connect and ask for help and to utilize your resources, because that's important. What else?
I think you get three things that I would say. One, if someone wants to tell you thank you, just say you're welcome. If you don't know what to do, because people used to tell me, "Hey, thank you for your service," and I'm like, okay. I didn't know what it meant for them to be saying it as the person who was receiving it. To me, I was just doing my job. It was fun. So if you don't know what to say when someone says thank you, just say you're welcome. And two, your benefits, being the materialistic weasel here, use those benefits. They're there for a reason. You've earned them. And don't be afraid to use them. And if you don't know how, ask. Someone will help you. You've got to ask.
But one of the things I learned was that in time what you need done, whether it's to get your check, get the BAQ added, or whatever the case may be, I learned early on, one of our phrases was, don't get nervous in the service. I tell students that. I probably told you that once in a while. If not, I probably will. But because things in time, it will happen in time. And so often being patient. Okay. Any other advice? Go ahead.
Well, this is advice that's been given to me, because I think I probably need it. But I've been told time and time again, like, yes, use your benefits, but do not waste them. Like, when you're going to school, do not waste your GI Bill. Make sure that you know what path you're going on, or stay on that path, because you can kind of just let those benefits just go to nothing. And once they're gone, they're gone. So
I'll speak to that. I actually did exactly that. I wish someone had given me that advice. I started trying to go to school before I started getting help from my PTSD. And so I was just taking classes, but I couldn't really do it very well. I was struggling. And so I ended up, once you start using your benefits, you have a time limit for going to school. You have 10 years, and then they expire. And this is actually my last semester. They actually expire right now, actually. This is my last month, basically. And I would love to keep going to school for other things, but you can't go because money's up, and so it's time to get back to the workforce. So, but I'd also say ask for help. It's okay. that's a hard one for soldiers because it's more of a man up or tough up. Here's some Motrin, march on. So you have to learn it's okay to be vulnerable. Go to the doctor and tell them what's wrong instead of just, I'm fine, nothing's wrong with me. So
I think, as human beings, we're often, I think of this even in teaching, the profession of teaching, where we don't always want to ask for help. We might feel that makes us weak, or we're not as strong as we could be, but maybe it's exemplified through service in military. You're rather self-sufficient, but at the same time, you're very dependent on your unit or whatever the various designation might be.
Very true.
I'm going to open it up for questions here in just a couple minutes. Before I do that, can you think of any way that the university system, in our case, of course, obviously UAS, that we could better serve veterans in general? And obviously this is not a complaint session, but I mean, can you think of ways that and this is always the case for every kind of program, no matter what it is. Do you have any suggestions?
Mine for going through the elementary education program, as you know, it's mostly all online. And
I do know that. Thanks for reminding me, though.
So there's that dual, like, one, UAS has been so wonderful because I was able to talk to Dr. Fredenberg, and he created a class for me on campus so I can utilize my benefits. But if there was no one to do that, then instead of getting like the full BAA, it should be cut in half because it's an online school. And I know I don't have the solution of how to fix that, but it'd be nice if there's more online, like on-campus classes, but that's just not the degree program. So that's been one of my big transitions from going to UAA and then losing their accreditation and then coming to UAS. When you're in school in UAA and you're around like-minded people going for the same profession or same degree, you're able to have those conversations daily. And it makes you understand why you're doing it and you have that passion with it. But for me, coming from, like, I moved here about 3 months ago, from going from like UAA and then all like the other transitions, it's been difficult to like sit down in front of a computer and you're not like doing that face-to-face connection with people. And you see everyone else with their degree programs, like whether it's like marine biology or fisheries or the outdoor study program, and you're surrounded by so many passionate people, but it's not your passion necessarily, but you kind of get sucked into like, oh, like that looks fun or that looks nice. And so it's just, I don't know how to like look up the online courses.
Well, it's different for each person, but it requires a different type of self-discipline, if you will.
Absolutely.
And you've done well, as you well know. Let's open it up for any questions from the audience for our panel, please.
So, a couple questions. First, what does MOS mean? And second, did any of you ever consider staying in military as a career?
No.
MOS is your military occupation specialty, your job, basically. So that's what that stands for. And I actually wanted to stay in, but I was hurt and I had to get out. I couldn't heal while I was still in. It's hard to heal when you have bad knees, when you live on the 3rd floor and there's no elevator and you have to take the stairs and do PT and run errands everywhere. So there's no choice for me.
I didn't plan on staying in when I got in, but I've been, slightly looking at the reserves, I think, as we all do during our transition period. But I never planned on making it my full career.
Yeah, I made a deal with my parents that I was going to do one and done, whether I loved it or hated it. Like, all right, we'll do that. Then you'll go to school. And, I had wanted to stay in a couple times, and then some part of me, it was a 50-50, and I'd already made the decision before joining, so I just went with that. So.
Thank you. Anyone else? Questions or comments? Lori.
I really appreciated your comments, Tori, about suggestions for UAS, and I just wondered if David or Donovan, you had any suggestions for us on how we can better support our veteran students.
I am actually really thankful for people like Deb back there. Without that, you don't have a veteran community. I mean, you could have veterans at your school. You just, it's an outlet. It's a source to help people, and it's been maybe it's just a bad day and you wanted someone to talk to. It helps. So thank you, Deb.
Yeah, really. I hang out in your office all the time. I know you like it because you get to play Pet Max. I take him off duty, but it helps me too. The only thing I mean, I love coming here. It's been a great experience overall. Like I said, I'd stay if I could. But the only problem I had was most of my transcript when I finally got it transferred over, which was a little tricky. Got lost a few times. But that most of my credits weren't applicable to anything. So that was kind of frustrating. I have credits there. A few of them got used for electives. But otherwise, everything else, there's no use for them. They're just sitting there being wasted. So that was frustrating.
I had the same experience, and part of that comes from you are told up front that so many will transfer, and that doesn't necessarily always the case, but all serve to prepare you well for who you are now.
And if I could add one more thing, Deb was absolutely amazing. I came here in April before I knew exactly where I was going to go, and I think my conversation with Deb, she took her time. I found her in the hallway, and she took her time to actually talk to me about like coming to UAS. And UAS in general has been such a great experience, like in the veteran community, compared to UAA. Kind of makes you feel like a number, in its own mindset. But like UAS, it was really bonding, and Deb's always been open and helpful.
She's actually the reason I'm here. I was working security, and she showed up at the site at the Glacier where I was pulling security for her when the BBC was in town, and she saw my license plate said Mad Vet, so she came up and talked to me. And because of that, I decided to come back to school.
Mad Vet?
That's what my license plate says. It says Mad Vet.
I'll leave that alone. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Oh, sorry.
Well, it was because I was at a larger university where I was just a number. Some other things happened. Part of my transition was not pretty, and I went into the workforce utilizing, see me sitting on a helicopter there. I did that in the civilian world too, and it led me to Juneau, Alaska as a helicopter mechanic. And then something happened and was like, I don't want to do that anymore. I need to go back to that. Use it or lose it. Those benefits. That's not entirely true with the GI Bill now, but like whenever I got out, you only had a certain amount of time to utilize it. I think that's changed, but I was like, I'm going back to school, and I was already here in Juneau, and kind of nerd out on some fish. That's just me. So they had a great program for me, and that's why I came to UAS. I love the environment with the people, the population, and it's just beautiful. I mean, look at it, it's snowing outside right now. Sir?
When did you guys EAS?
I was, so I joined in 2002, and then I got out in 2008. So did that in 2008. I actually got out in June, but my contract didn't end until August. I had a whole bunch of vacation time saved up because Iraq didn't count as vacation time. So it's added up.
It's a great month.
Yeah.
It is. I'm terminal leave.
December 2017.
And
I joined in July 2003, and I got out of active duty in July 2006. And then I joined the Guard for a few years, but here in town, but doesn't really count.
It counts.
It didn't count on my time term.
Okay.
follow-up question, how much free food are you planning to eat later? You're on a scale of 1 to 10.
I don't eat much normally.
Fair enough. So
Coffee is my thing.
There you go.
Where are we going?
Good answer.
Your treat?
Some lasagna that's back there.
Mark you as a 5.
Yep.
Just one question from the panel members. We've got active duty personnel here, so any advice, things for them to consider as they're starting their military career?
I've never dealt with that O side of the house. you're going to find that you're going to work with people who don't always agree with you. Be sensitive to their situation and listen to them before you dismiss them. You can still dismiss them, that's your personal choice, but listen to them first before you do. So that's going to get you a lot of places.
Life in general, right?
Yeah.
I'd say, especially since everyone here seems to be officers or officers in training, my favorite officers were the ones who had served as Joes first in the Army, because they understood what it felt like to be on guard duty at 2 a.m., freezing your butt off. And so they were more, understanding and more, they understood what you're going through, so they were more just understanding overall, I guess. But I'd say all the Greenhorn officers I've had to break in over my time, they tend to either try to be too gung-ho, and it's kind of irritating, or they tend to try to be your friend. Officers aren't really your friend when you're a Joe, because they're many ranks above you. So I'd just say, kind of feel it out first. Let the NCOs do their job, because they're the ones that run everything.
Mm-hmm.
You just do the paperwork.
And like in teaching, you can be friendly, but you're not their friend.
Yeah.
I just say utilize your leadership and take advice from everyone. But also, I mean, you're competent enough, like you are where you are because you've put yourself there. So it's not necessarily bending to everyone's will and making sure that you're competent enough to make the right decision. So
Support your troops, though.
Anyone else? I'm going to turn it over to Deb in a minute, but before I do, I will talk about bennies. If you don't get what you don't ask for, or in many cases in life in general, but you do need to take advantage of those things. But again, ask questions. I remember when I first went in, I talked to the recruiter, Jerry Hornig was his name, great guy. And I said, I have 5 brothers and 2 of them would like to go to boot camp with me. He goes, we can't do that. I go, well, then I won't sign. He goes, we can do that. Just like that. So was Loftus in boot camp. I was the senior squad leader. I ran the thing, and 2 of my brothers were squad leaders. And anyway, rather interesting, if you will. They called us Larry, Daryl, and Daryl for those of you who get that reference. Yep.
Are there any questions?
I'm sorry, thanks.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you, Jeffrey. Appreciate it.
Okay, well, we've got about 15 minutes till 1 o'clock, and so we have enough food for everybody, but we would like to invite our veterans to start the food line, our active duty personnel, and then we all can just sit around and have some food, and we'll have some cake ready as well. So thanks for coming. It was just an honor and a pleasure to recognize all of you who have served our country, and we are just honored to have you here. So with that, let's eat. All right.